All right, I want to bring in Jonathan Liss now, who's Deputy Director of the think tank British Influences, live from London. Thank you so much for being with us. A lot for Theresa May to pull together there. How did she project herself in your view, and did she strike the right tone?
Well, she did what she had to do. Look, there is no honour in what Theresa May has done. She's virtually had to be carried out of Downing Street. Her party has tried to get rid of her for several months. So this was a kind of embarrassing attempt to try and rescue some dignity from an inevitable situation, because she absolutely did not want to go. But just look at the things she was talking about compromise. That is the one thing she has resolutely failed to do throughout her time in office. If she had sought to compromise when she came to Downing Street, when she had the most power, the most political capital, she would not now be in the abject position in which she finds herself.
She obviously, I mean, this was a very difficult moment for her. Did you hear any sense of hope in that speech, any sense of direction for the country? Do you think now she'll be able to bind her party together?
Absolutely not. Britain, like the Conservative Party, is completely divided, and it's also the Conservative Party is veering off in one direction only. Theresa May is now an avowed Brexiteer, and she was considered to remain for her party, which is now going off in a far more damaging direction towards no deal. But Parliament will not tolerate that, and so her successor will find exactly the same problems as Theresa May has done, and Britain is no closer to finding any answers whatsoever to the problems it has.
So what will her successor have to build on now? Obviously, she's going to stay on as caretaker Prime Minister until June 7th, and there's going to be a leadership race. Who do you see taking over, and what will they have to build on?
Well, the answer is precious little, because what we have at the moment is a deal that's been rejected 3 times by Parliament, and a withdrawal agreement bill, the legislation for that deal, which has been rejected by virtually the entire party, including Theresa May's cabinet. So the next leader, will come into power having basically rejected the only thing that's on the table, but the EU is not really prepared to negotiate anything better. And so we are going to continue in this absolute deadlock for months ahead, until we either have a general election in which the Tory party will likely be annihilated for its indecision, or a second referendum, which the new Prime Minister will have done everything in their power to prevent. But I don't see another way forward.
All right, Jonathan Liss, I just want to play you a soundbite now of the end of Theresa May's speech just moments ago outside 10 Downing Street, just to give you, our viewers, also an idea of just how personal and emotional a moment this was for her. Take a listen.
I will shortly leave the job that it has been the honour of my life to hold. The second female Prime Minister, but certainly not the last. I do so with no ill will, but with enormous and enduring gratitude to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
She had tears in her voice and her eyes, just as she ended that speech there, announcing her resignation, Theresa May. Jonathan Liss, she talked a great deal about her achievements during that speech. Do you think that this whole fiasco over Brexit is completely overshadowing whatever she achieved during her term as Prime Minister?
Look, I mean, it's obviously a moment of personal sorrow for her, and, you know, she is a human being like the rest of us, but I have to say there is very little sympathy that anyone can reasonably feel for Theresa May. She chose to take a job for which she was manifestly ill-suited, and I'm afraid there are literally no achievements that she can speak of in that 3-year tenure. She did nothing except commit herself to an undeliverable Brexit, which is based on total delusion and fantasy, and it was her arrogance which got herself into this position. Numerous officials talk about how they tried to explain the EU to Theresa May, tried to explain how difficult Brexit was going to be, and she simply said, I know more about this than you, I'm going to defy you. And I'm afraid the results are plain for all to see. She has manifestly failed, and there's very little comfort that anyone can draw from that. And you talk about the rest of her achievements, well, the only other thing I can think of really is the Windrush scandal, in which the hostile environment, which was pioneered by Theresa May as Home Secretary, was again revealed to be deporting black British citizens to Jamaica, for example. That's no legacy to be proud of at all.
She's staying on as caretaker Prime Minister until June the 7th. So, how do you see the situation evolving between now and then? I mean, that's a few weeks from now. What happens until then?
Well, we assume that her party will let her stay on until the 7th of June because everything is incredibly febrile right now. So we just had the European elections yesterday. On Sunday night, we get the results of that, in which the Conservative Party is likely to have been totally pummeled, possibly coming 5th in the national result. So there'll be renewed pressure then. And then, of course, you have Trump's visit, which is going to be an extraordinary humiliation because he'll be having a bilateral with the Prime Minister who will literally be resigning 3 days after he leaves, or 2 days after he leaves. And then you have a by-election on the Thursday, which the Tory party held that seat 2 years ago, and they will likely be wiped out there as well. So the Conservatives are not going to be feeling any sympathy for Theresa May until the 7th of June, but I assume they will let her have some dignity in lasting that week before she goes.
Thank you very much for speaking to us, Jonathan Liss. Very good to get your thoughts on this breaking news story here on Al Jazeera. Theresa May announcing her resignation as Prime Minister of the UK.